So we do this. We do this. Fantasia. And all of this are bouncing back and forth. Look at that. We destroyed him before we even destroyed the shield. Ciao belly, it's me Hydra Sam, and today I will show you everything I know about Shiro in Tower of Fantasy, including how to DPS with Shiro. If you're like me, then right now I'm having an identity crisis on who to main, and I'm in between Tsubasa, Mero, Huma, Samir, and of course Shiro. And that doesn't include future characters like Frigg or Claudia, who potentially I want to main, but the fact is that this whole week on my twitch.tv/HydraSam Twitch stream, I've been using Shiro non-stop because she is a hell of a fun character to use. And I keep asking myself, do I want to main Shiro? Do I want to go all in with her star levels? And can I even make her a viable DPS? Or should I choose a different main? Well, these are all the same questions I have with the characters I mentioned earlier, so I will be making more of these videos for them as well in the future. But the first one I wanted to make was a Ching. Wait, I mean Shiro. So let's start off by looking at her kit. Let me go ahead and show you Shiro's kit. This is her rapid throw, her normal attacks, and the basic. Usually you're not doing this. This is like the weakest part of her kit. Kind of don't want a normal attack with her. The only thing you will note is that the chakrams do come back. So essentially, if you hit an enemy, it can hit them twice, especially if you line them up like this. One, and then twice again. So can I hit all of them? Let's see. Oh no, because it auto locks. There you go. Back again. 3, and then back again. Aerial discharge would be you in the air going like this. These are weaker than her normal attacks, so there's no like advantage of hitting them while midair because they're gonna do weaker damage. And then scatter is probably the most optimal way you want to attack with Shiro if you're not using anything. So normal attack and then hold, and it does all that spread damage. We'll try to like line them up. If it is a single target enemy, you kind of don't want to be far away for this because it's only one of them's going to hit them. So like, let me show you real quick. So the farther you are away, the only one hit them. But if you're close to them, all of them are going to hit them. And that's how you do a lot of DPS with her if you're just doing any of these normal attack sequences. That's the optimal way. So just know when to be up close and personal and when you can be distant and spread your damage out. And another thing I like about Shiro is that you can actually hit characters while midair, unlike some other characters. So even with this B, I can still hit him midair. Let me show you her air spin. So while in the air, if you hold it, it will do a powerful attack. This attack has the highest percentage of her whole kit. But with the air spin, I really don't use it when I'm using Shiro. Kind of just like a thing, like, okay, you know, if I'm ever in the air, I guess I can use it. And it does do a little bit of AoE. So it's a thing. You could do it. Make sure you try to get them all bunched up. And if it just lets me, you know, pick another character to lock on, I could actually be more optimal with this. But since it doesn't, that's why I really don't use it. But it is a thing if you're ever in the air attacking, which most of the time I find myself not being in the air or using this attack unless I just want to be fancy. Now let me show you one of the best freaking parts of her kit, the sneak attack. Her sneak attack is S tier. Watch, check this out. If it were up to me, guys, I'd sneak attack everything in the whole freaking game, but you just don't. But let me show you her waning moon. Her waning moon is actually the one you kind of want to use a lot because, you know, with the scatter, if they're far away, only one of them's gonna hit like this. Let me see if I can show you. But with the waning moon, like, it doesn't matter if I'm far. It's just I throw it, and then as soon as it hits the enemy, it spreads 3 chakrams and hits them all at the same time. It's pretty powerful. And so the combo you kind of want to do is like waning moon into scatter shot. So you're going to lunge to them, waning moon, and then do a scatter shot. And that's how you're going to do a lot of damage when you're up close and personal. So now let me talk about one of the best parts of Shiro's kit, which is her full bloom. And it is her weapon skill. I'm going to get this out of the way. You cannot do it while midair. So if you're trying to do it in the air, you can. But it kind of does suck those aerial units into the field. So that's the pull effect that it is from her weapon skill. So that's something neat to note as well. It's only going to last for 8 seconds. It's going to unleash 5 chakrams, and they're going to be bouncing all back and forth as many times as possible. Well, not as many times as possible. It says 5 times, but sometimes it does more than 5. Sometimes it does like 7 or 8. I really don't know. If you know the specifics of why, or maybe I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. But one thing to note is that, remember the attack Waning Moon earlier? The one where you do a dodge attack and then you fire it and it just spreads into 3 discs? Well, those can actually bounce within the full bloom. Well, ideally, here's what you want to do. You want to save 1 dodge for your Fantasia, because you want to trigger this elemental skill while they're all standing still, and then you do a dodge, and then just keep doing the Waning Moon, and then just your normal attack scatter shots, and then that's how you do a bunch of damage within that little 8-second window. So in that field, there was about like 14 of them bouncing. Okay, not 14, 11, because we used 1 dodge for the Fantasia. But still, 11 is better than the 5 you originally have with her elemental skill. Not her elemental skill, her weapon skill. Hello, Hydra Sam. This is not Genshin Impact right now. Well, that is how I find ideally to use her elemental skill and her Waning Moons. And this is what makes her shred those shields. So even though you don't see a lot of damage, the matter of fact is that you mainly are using this to kind of just shred the shields. So it puts Shiro in an awkward spot. Like, you want her to DPS, but she's kind of a shield breaker role. And so when you're doing this, you don't see a lot of big damage, but you know, it's okay because they have their shields on. So like they have that 50% resistance. But then after the shield is gone, ooh, that's when you're doing a lot more damage. But if you go up against an enemy that doesn't have a shield, or maybe you just broke it with another character or something, then we can see how much damage we can actually do. So right here. Bang, deleted. Deleted. So much damage. It's so much fun. I like this little combo. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the discharge ability really quick. It's gonna do an AoE field again. It's gonna stun the enemies, and it's gonna do taking damage every like 1 or 2 seconds. You can read the specifics right there. I probably have it on the screen, but I'm gonna show it to you real quick. So you do her discharge ability, and they get stunned, or they have a chance of getting stunned, and it's ticking every second. And so now let's go ahead and just like combine it all. Combine her discharge ability, her full bloom, and all the scatters. So we do this. We do this. Fantasia. And all of this are bouncing back and forth. Look at that. We destroyed him before we even destroyed the shield. See, that's what I mean by it's weird. Like, she's doing so much DPS, but she's not like the best shield breaker. I mean, she's good at breaking shields, but she's not the best, you know? But that was just a whole lot of damage right there, and he absolutely got destroyed. And I know it's an open world enemy, not a boss, but I'm just trying to show you her combos that you can do with her. So this is like the little window you want to take advantage of. Usually after you do that sequence, you want to switch to another character and do other stuff with them. So like the way I'm finding to play Shiro is kind of like a burst style DPS where you take advantage of that window, you take advantage of her elemental skill, I mean her weapon skill, and then you switch off and then do other stuff and then come back to her whenever her cooldown is done. The only problem is, guys, whenever it's a kind of a boss or an enemy that likes to move around, that's when you just have a problem because they're gonna get out of the circle, they're gonna get out of the AoE field, and then your whole DPS is just lost. So that's why I say you kind of want to do a Fantasia and then this combo. That way they stay still for that window. Quickly, I want to add, I think Shiro has like the best character art in the whole freaking game. She's showing off that she has that tail and she has that cake as well. Kind of cringe, but you know, if she does the squats, hey, if you squat, you work out, I imagine you want to show off your body as well. So we are just respectfully admiring here. But anyways, her passive, her awakening, whatever you want to call it, it is this right here. When Shiro uses a weapon skill / discharge ability, increase all kinds of attack by 10% and physical attack by an additional 7% for 8 seconds. Cooldown is 16 seconds. And then once you max it out, it does turn to 16 and 10% physical attack. So kind of a support, especially if you have like a physical team, I guess. Either that or you just use it for Shiro and it just increases her DPS by a little bit more. But it is there for you to take advantage if you choose to. Matrices, 2-piece King and 2-piece Shiro seem pretty good, but after learning about Shiro, her being more of a burst DPS, you will realize that it's going to take up the duration of her skill and using up all her dodges in order to break a shield. So your King buff kicks in when all your stuff is on cooldown. Because if you notice here, when a target is shattered, grants 8%, so you have to shatter and then you get the boost. In certain scenarios, you can do this, but then you're just like thinking too much and it's like too much of an inconvenience. So personally, I would rather choose a 2-piece Samir and 2-piece Shiro. This takes advantage of your burst window And with the 2-piece Samir, you're going to be activating it because you saw how many chakrams were like bouncing around. So you're definitely going to get that Samir buff. But yes, a 2-piece Shiro, 2-piece Samir is definitely going to take advantage of your burst window when all the chakrams are bouncing around and you're doing all that DPS, and you will have all those buffs. But if you cannot get that, a 2-piece King and a 2-piece Shiro, it's still pretty good. But that's going to be her best matrices for her weapon. Hey guys, for this next part that's talking about the star levels, if you want to see like a full showcase of all of them, check out my boy Holius's video. His channel will be in the description. He makes great content and he's really entertaining, and he will show you all the star levels and the demonstrations as well. I only have 1 star. So yeah, I just want to mention that real quick. Sub to him if you have not already. I don't know how many views this video is going to get, but whoever's watching this, support him as well. Great content creator. So now let's talk about Shiro's star levels. So if you notice, I already have star level 1. Because last week I was like really convinced, like, you know what, I'm going to main Shiro. And I was just like, F it, I'm going to buy a copy with my black gold. And it's not like I regret it, because her star level 1, it increases damage dealt to and all elemental shattering effects on targets within full bloom's range by 30%. Originally, she has a 10.00 shatter value, but after you activate her first star level, it increases up to 11.4. But I don't know if that's only within the full bloom's range or not, because this value right here usually means their base shatter values without any type of buffs, unless I'm wrong. So if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments if this is not just without any buff. But nevertheless, this star level lets you do more damage with Shiro, or you can view it as a support skill where you just throw it out in the field and then switch to another weapon to give them the damage boost within her AoE range, of course. Star level 2 is just more attack, kind of like the C3 and the C5 of Genshin Impact. Star level 3 is where you get a beefy boost. Her shatter gets increased by 15%. And this is helpful because as soon as you break a shield with Shiro, she will reset all weapon cooldowns, including herself. I like to think this could help her DPS output by essentially extending the duration of her full bloom. If you're able to keep bosses or enemies within full bloom's range, you will most certainly rip through that shield and then have another full bloom to DPS with. But this time, with no damage resistance from the enemy. Because remember, like I talked about earlier, when you're doing all your full bloom and all your chakrams, and Shiro is supposed to be that shield breaker role in your team, most of the time when you're doing your full bloom, you're attacking enemies that have a 50% resistance, so you don't see big numbers. But if you do manage to go to star level 3, then you can use 1 full bloom to take out their shield and another one to just do a crazy amount of damage. But if you choose to do that, that's also going to extend your time of Shiro being on field. And if you're okay with that, then you're okay with that. Star level 4, increase the current weapon HP growth by 30%. Meh. So star level 5 increases the duration of Grievous by 7 seconds, and that last part makes it where you cannot extend the duration for forever. Which honestly, if you were to invest this much into Shiro, I think you should be able to extend Grievous for forever. Like, why not give her something so broken that it gives us an excuse to have Shiro out like 100% of the time, or at least for a lot? I mean, might as well. You're like investing this many star levels into Shiro, who like could potentially get power crept. Like, give her something that broken so she can, like, you know, stay relevant for a while. But whatever, that's just my complaint, my opinion. Unless I'm wrong, unless only take effect once for the same effect is like I'm reading it wrong. But you can let me know in the comments, because if I am wrong, I want to be wrong. But the way I read it is that, you know, the Grievous lasts what, 7 seconds, right? Right here, 7 seconds, and then you hit him and it's gonna extend another 7 seconds, so like 14 seconds potentially of that Grievous window, which is okay because I mean the full bloom only lasts for like 8 seconds or whatever, so you can still take advantage of this in that small window where you're doing that much burst DPS. But anyways, finally at star level 6, after using full bloom, grant a 100% crit chance for the next 8 seconds. And this is for all your characters, not just Shiro. This is so broken, especially if you have like 14 chakrams bouncing around in your full bloom. That will absolutely shred any enemy. And even if like you're facing a boss and it leaves the full bloom, or an enemy decides to go like away from your field, you just switch to another weapon and you can still take advantage of that 100% crit rate. So if worst comes to worst, you can still use the 6 star to do like support for another weapon that you want 100% crit chance. Let's talk about Shiro's playstyle that has been talked about quite a bit from like people who've played the Chinese version or other veterans. And they say her kit is tailored around being as a support, which kind of makes sense when you read some of her, you know, her star levels. But if you don't have any star levels and you want a decent shield breaker, Shiro is your girl. But if you're looking to use her as a great support or even a great main DPS, unfortunately, you really need to invest in her star levels. And if you're like investing in her star levels, Star level 3 and star level 6 are great stopping points for Shiro, and anything else is just copium, so either don't level up or just make sure you're committed enough to go to star level 3 or 6. I kind of already leveled up one, so like I don't know, like I might go to 3, but I think for now I'm gonna stop at star level 1. I don't think you should. Like, if you're debating like, oh, should I get one more star level for Shiro, Hydro Sam? Nah, not really worth it. I mean, do someone else like freaking Tsubasa with her first star level. I think that's a better investment, which is probably what I'm gonna lean towards after, so that way I can kind of boost up her damage. Which, speaking of that, let me talk about her best teams. But for the team section, I'm only gonna go over the first ones that come to mind. But if you want me to explore as many team combinations and rotations as possible and go like a little bit more in depth and detailed, you can let me know down in the comments, because if there is enough interest, I will make a separate video for the teams and rotations of Shiro. But for now, the best team to probably put Shiro in is Nemesis, Shiro, and Samir. But this is just kind of like a, oh, I don't have King or Meryl, so let me just go ahead and put in Shiro so she can shield break. Either that, or you're like, screw King Scythe. I don't want to use King. I don't want to use Scythe. I don't want any type of King on my team. I want to use my girl Shiro and her Chakram. And if that's you, well then this is the team. So yeah, you can just switch to Shiro, take advantage of her burst window, and then go back to Samir, who will be the on-field main DPS. And then you just go back and forth and do all that. She kind of has synergy with Meryl, because Meryl and like other abilities that do this, I'm not saying just Meryl, but like her discharge ability, Meryl's discharge ability, creates a barrier, reduces speed of the enemy by 15%, and kind of traps him. I think you're able to trap him. And if you're able to do that and trap him, then you can take advantage of Full Bloom and Shiro and do all that nonsense without worrying about the enemies going away. Or if you freeze them with like Tsubasa with her discharge ability, you're going to, you know, freeze them and they will for sure stand still, and then you can do the same thing of taking advantage of the Full Blooms window. I do have a theory for another team that might be super copium, but it does involve Bai Ling, and it involves leveling up her stars all the way to 6, which can potentially be easily attainable, mainly because, you know, she's a SR and you get a lot of SRs. Like I said, this is just kind of like a copium theory, but if you look at Bai Ling's star level 6 and star level 5, her dodge skills inflict grievous effects for targets for 7 seconds. So whenever you do that dodge arrow, they're gonna have Grievous. And then when they do have Grievous, her star level 6, it increases crit rate by 30% and crit damage by 50%. So theoretically, you use Bai Ling arrow to inflict Grievous, and then you switch into Shiro. And if you have Shiro maxed out, you can extend Grievous by an additional 7 seconds. And then if you're using Full Bloom, then it really doesn't matter the crit rate, but what does matter is that extra 50% crit damage. So within that window right there, Grievous, 50% crit damage, 100% crit rate, and all the damage that you possibly can do in 8 seconds. But of course, this is just a copium theory, like if you were to spend all your resources on Shiro. But as far as making other teams, it's pretty easy to learn, especially if you've seen my how to build a team video that you'll find on my channel. But like I said, if you want me to go more in depth and go over like every possible team right now at the time of this video, then let me know in the comments. So like the final question is, should you main Shiro and go all in on her? Well, veterans say that she really falls off later, even as a support. If she is a support, it's more of a niche physical support, and even then, according to this graph, like she's not even the best niche physical support you can put on a physical team. Aw, she knows it too. DPS power creep has been a real thing in the Chinese version of the game, so if you're in it for the long run, then I guess I don't recommend going all in for Shiro, which is one of the main reasons why I haven't decided to officially main her. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's heckin' fun and definitely looks good all around, but if you are a physical DPS kind of person, just know that Claudia is coming in the future, who is supposedly a better DPS than Shiro. But here's the caveat to that take, and that is that you don't know if you're in it for the long run. What you care about is how much fun you're having now, because if you're not having fun right now, then what's gonna make you stay? If you're not familiar with my Genshin content, I have made waifu over meta content in the past, but since this is a different game from Genshin, I don't want you to go all in on Shiro just to later regret it and say, why Hydro Sam, why did you make me invest into Shiro? I hate you, I'm unsubbing. Which by the way, you cannot do that if you aren't sub already. And if you want me to have a better chance of staying in the long run with content such as this and my other guides, then go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and let me know in the comments how your Shiro experience is going, or if you're still trying to get Shiro. Let me know if I messed up on something so I can correct it with a pinned comment. Thank y'all very much if you made it to the end of the video. I love y'all so much, and remember, waifu over meta, and I will see you in the next video.